Hey everybody, welcome. Susan.
Sorry.
Damn. Everybody, welcome. It's a dose of Dr. Drew.
Welcome indeed. Across from me is the great Jason Wahler. You can see him on the hills.
Jason and I have known each other for many years now. And we invited him in to give us some updates. First of all, what's going on the hills right now?
Well, we just wrapped. Our final episode came out. I want to say, it's already been about 2 months, and so that season was good. It did well. It was very interesting going back on that show after as many years as I've been away from it, but ended up going really good. It was awesome to be able to be on it with my wife and be able to have my kids around and honestly show what a new me kind of looks like. 10, 12 years ago, I was that drunk, womanizing alcoholic on that show, and now that I'm married, sober, and got a family, it's a little bit different.
I was that drunk, womanizing alcoholic. Yes, you.
It's interesting. Recovery is a process, right? It's not a straight line, and it's not an overnight process. It takes a while. Tell people about your process.
I mean, it's a journey, that's for sure. I entered back into sobriety after I connected with you back in July 23rd, 2010. I had multiple years of sobriety, and then around 2015, 2016, I ended up having a pretty bad relapse. And this disease is very primary, chronic, progressive, and potentially fatal if it's untreated. And I went down that dark rabbit hole, ended up going back out. Life was really good, lost sight of what I actually did to get sober. And that road, when I was not implementing my routine and my structure and keeping my program as my number one priority, it took me back out. And, when you get into addiction is a disease of denial. And when you're in the stages of that and in the depths of it, and, I was not able or willing to get honest when I'd relapsed. And it kept me sick for 3.5 years, all the way to the depths of, my wife being pregnant, and I was in the detox floor at Hoag Hospital, and my daughter was born. But you think that would be enough to stop somebody from wanting to use, and this shit's cunning, baffling, and powerful. And after Delilah was born, 6 days later, I was back at it again for another 6 months until I had to be intervened on and actually go back into treatment to actively arrest the disease and get stabilized. But it was brutal, and I summarized my drinking and using, and it's kind of simple like this: is at first it was fun, it became a lifestyle, and before you know it, it became a way of survival. And when I'm using, or if I'm actively on something, the fun's gone. I'm in a place of a world of hurt, suicidal ideations come into play. And it's something that's going on much deeper than the drugs or the alcohol.
Yeah, there are several lessons to learn from your illness and your recovery. One is the progressivity. You don't go back where you left off. You go where you left off, but you keep going. And you had to go further down. You had to go further down. You had to do it. You needed further, and it got scary.
It did, but I mean, even more so too is just being super mindful as I ended up having cross addictions come into play, sex addiction, pornography, gambling. Went down a whole road with gambling, which was very, very, very scary.
It's interesting. It's interesting. That's the one that causes you the most shame still, huh?
It does, because it put me in such a vulnerable place, and that's the straw that broke the camel's back that almost really ripped my marriage apart and everything else, because then it's not only the using but the deceitfulness, the lying, the livelihood.
Well,
right?
that's so there's the depths you went to. There's there's different sort of flavors of alcoholism out there. You have distinct personality changes. Not good. not
no,
good ones.
No, right? It's brutal. I mean, and that's the thing is, you would think, 9 out of 10 times when I would use and drink, it was horrible, right? There was that one time you maybe get that fun, Jason, but when I drink, it's the Jekyll and Hyde. It's instantly snap.
And let me ask something, just for people that aren't around this illness. When you become Mr. Hyde, so to speak, are you aware you're in that state and feel bad about it, or do you have no awareness that your personality has changed that much?
Well, I am the type of alcoholic that blacks out. So I'm not cognitive or aware of my behaviors. Obviously, when I come to, I feel horrible. I'm one of those drinkers that when I would wake up, I mean, I'd have panic attacks from looking at my phone, calling people what I do last night, what ended up happening. And it wasn't always like that, but I also want to touch base on that too, is because I think something that also exacerbated it a lot. And people, a lot of people aren't aware of this when you connect with them, is I was on an SSRI called Effexor. And when I mixed that specifically with alcohol too, that exacerbated the mannerisms and or the behaviors of like my psychosis and being psychotic.
Yeah. And you're using the word psychosis liberally, but I know what you mean. You're not yourself. You're not yourself.
Correct.
And that's very interesting. And a lot of alcoholics look for solutions in a pill or in psychoanalysis or something, and it often makes things worse. And it never solves the problem. If you have a second problem, depression, I mean, it's important to treat that, but man, you gotta be very careful about how it interplays with the alcoholism.
Correct. Well, correct me if I'm wrong, though, is oftentimes the alcohol dilutes the effect of actually the
yes, medicine. Not just dilutes it, but just makes it unpredictable, and it's just dangerous at that point. And so it's the picking up where you're left off and having to go to a deeper, more profound bottom. It is the personality stuff that people want to blame alcoholics for having when it's just part of the illness. And then your wife's codependency. I think that's another fascinating piece of your story. It really, really is. Talk about it.
Yeah. So look, I mean, wherever there's an alcoholic or an addict, there's a codependent, and sometimes they're just as sick, if not sicker. And again, is my wife, it's, bless her heart, she met me when I was sober. So she only knew the Jason that was sober. I started dating her at about a year of sobriety, and we got married, and everything was all hunky dory, if you will. And when I had relapsed, she had no idea what to do. And, again, as an addict, when in active addiction, we were mass manipulators, and I was able to kind of tie my finger and have her wrapped around my finger to be able to kind of allow me to continue to do what I wanted to do. And, there's a lot of times she was actually, again, as I take full ownership and accountability for my actions, but there was times that she was enabling behaviors that actually made things worse for my addiction. And they go hand in hand. I mean, she had her own battle with this. And I mean, it was a dance that we were doing for so many years. It was about 3.5 years before she actually got help and got insight. But I mean, we got to such a dark place that we didn't even know what colors we liked. We didn't know, what type of food we liked anymore. I mean, it became so manifested around the disease, and it is such a family disease that we were both so sick in our own ways.
I have to tell you, it's just so apparent being around you guys now, the flourishing recovery you're both in. It's just I can't say enough. And it's often the case that it's the codependent that gets the addict all the way home, all the way into their recovery. And I feel like that was kind of your play, that you could, if her codependency had kept going, you wouldn't have never gotten all the way into recovery. By the same token, she had some stuff she had to deal with that had you not had your illness, she never would have understood that was something needed to be dealt with.
Correct. And exactly. She had that underlying issue there that whole time. And I think for people, that don't understand from that side is Ashley is when I got sober too, right? Is all the stuff, not only with her codependency, but all the stuff that she experienced was traumatic. Watching her husband, I mean, she had her head to my heart, seeing if my heart was still beating, seeing if I was still breathing at night, and all those things. So once I go get help, if she's not taking care of herself, getting proper therapy, getting connected, and being able to walk through the process that she needs to walk through, it becomes this ebb and flow where if I'm just in recovery and she doesn't work and do what she's doing, it's kind of like I'm looking over my shoulder, like, where are you at?
Yeah.
And so we have to be in the same pattern.
Also, what can happen is the relationship can fail because you have to grow in your recovery, and you often grow away from somebody else, as opposed to if they're keeping up and growing with you, you can kind of navigate as you go. But I have this distinct feeling that the degree to which she embraced her codependency, and it's funny, I'm fearful that people are going to think of these terms as pejorative. They're just matter of fact to Jason and I. We don't have a valence on them. Codependency is just a thing, and alcoholism is just a thing. It's not a good thing or a bad thing. It's just a thing. And but recovery is an extraordinary thing from either of these phenomena. And I just have this distinct feeling that her recovery was so I don't want to use too strong a word, but sort of glorious. It got you all the way into your recovery. Like the depths of your recovery enhanced.
If it wasn't for her, hands down. I mean, I'm at the stages, like, look, I look at, and they're two totally separate things, but I look at addiction like cancer. You know, there's stage 1, 2, 3, and 4. You got your alcoholic that drinks a 6-pack every day and doesn't potentially hit his highest potential that he could in his life, to the stage 4 where, I mean, I'm drinking and dying.
Yeah.
And I really feel like that was, you know, I don't know that I have another relapse left in me.
Hey man, I was worried about you when I met you. When I first met you, you were like 28 or something, 29?
No, bro, 22.
When I first met you were 23?
Yeah.
Wow. But you know why I thought you were older? And it's what I was going to say was, at 28, man, you have no idea how bad your liver was. And now at 22, because I can't quite process it, because you're my friend. I don't want to think about it that way. Is that you had like real stuff going on, real stuff when I first met you.
I'll never forget. You told me when I sat down to the first time after I got on my test back, you said, Jason, you're at 22 years old. You have the alcoholism of a 50-year-old.
Oh, easy. That's exactly what was in my head. I was really kind of like, we weren't friends yet then. And I was like, man, this guy, I'm really worried about this guy. This is he don't got much room here.
Yeah. So. Well, I probably looked like I was 50 because of the amount of damage I was doing.
Well, but look at you now. Screw it. What the hell? that was part of the journey. That's it. And now I wanted you to tell me about this app you're working with. I'm intrigued by it. I might get involved with it if it looks as good as you say it is. Tell me what it is and why it works.
So Reframe, right? We're looking at a bunch of different approaches that we can take.
Well, hold on a second. Hold on. Susan pushed the wrong button. She keeps pushing the wrong button. She's trying to put the Reframe app up there for us. So go ahead, tell us about it.
Okay. Oh, no worries. So, you know, in this day and age, there's a lot of different approaches, especially the younger demographic, on how we approach, you know, substance abuse, whether it's, you know, I'm wanting to abstain from sobriety all the way to, you know, I'm just wanting to moderate drinking, because there's a lot of people that necessarily aren't even addicts or alcoholics that struggle.
Well, you just mentioned the different stages, right? And when I mentioned it earlier, I said there's different flavors of this thing too. I am interested in the people that can, you know, once you flip the switch on this thing, that's it. Now it's treatment. Now it's 12-step. But there are people, and it's probably a different biology, a different situation, that can moderate. It's picking the right person for moderation. That's what I worry about. It's not getting to the point where they flip that switch, so to speak.
No, for sure. But I think everybody's got their own journey, right? And they have to be able to get real honest with themselves. It's even how they approach it. And this is how it was approached to me is alcohol taking away or adding to this beautiful life you have to live, right? And so it's kind of puts it into perspective. Instead of being like, are you an alcoholic or are you an addict? It's really looking at it from a different context and being like, hey, maybe I should take a look at how much I'm consuming, or, you know, is this really becoming a problem? Is it affecting my work? Is it affecting my family? Is it affecting, you know, my income? Whatever it may be, but gives you the opportunity to really look at it from a different perspective. And it is a neuroscience backed app. Which is all the studies and stuff were done out of Harvard, and showing that it's the number one app in reducing drinking.
Is it sort of a cognitive behavioral instrument like CBT kind of thing? So
it's a behavioral, and it's also a habit building. Okay. So when I went on the apps, like the way I like to summarize it in a you know, if I were to give you a 30,000 foot view, is the app really allowed you the opportunity to create structure, or consistency, which allows you to create structure, which then creates safety. And so by waking up and having this app that you go to and doing those modalities that are anywhere from 15 to 30 to 45 minutes long, anything from when you wake up, doing the daily devotional, doing a couple readings, getting educated, doing some note taking and answering some questions, and then doing a follow-up reading later, and then doing a daily reprieve. And and it's, again, there's so many different modalities. It's however you sign up for it and what you're wanting to accomplish, it adapts to that.
Okay. So that interests me for two reasons. One is, it sounds like just the basics of recovery, to be fair there. That's what part of this is. But the other thing is, is this John Kelly's thing? Is John Kelly involved with this? Because this sounds like his thing. Okay. So he has a thing. He's the head of Harvard's addiction program. And he says, you know, 12-step is designed so not everybody gets the same thing out of it. You get out of it what you need. You know, some people need more on shame and guilt. Some people need more on spiritual. Some people need more on service. And it's all stuff, much like in therapy, you have to build what people need, and all the elements are there with 12 steps. So this feels like it's the same kind of thing. Susan, I wonder if there's a way you could bring Anthony in here. Is there any way to bring Anthony up? What? Hold a second.
Speak to us, Anthony.
Can you speak up here? Anthony is a friend of mine who is a recovering gentleman who's a nurse manager, and a nurse administrator. Anthony, you there?
Here, let's show everybody really quick.
Yes,
Okay.
I'm here. Hello.
Okay, here's our Zoom meeting. This is everyone from Locals. Welcome, everybody. If I call on you to speak, I can't quite see everybody's name.
Hold on a second.
Yeah, it's all right.
I
But
can go
Anthony,
to gallery, but-
first of all, Anthony
Here's
and
everybody.
Jason. There they are.
Hi,
Jason,
everybody.
Jason, Anthony. First of all,
Anthony?
Hey, Jason, how you doing, man?
Anthony, any questions for Jason to
might be
begin
more.
with? And then we'll talk a little bit about the app thing, if you think, because you see all the flavors of addiction out there at your hospital too.
Yes, one of the things I was wondering, and I appreciate you opening up, is when you relapsed, did you see it coming? I mean, did you go to like a weird place where you shouldn't have been, or did you just was out having spaghetti and go, hey, there's a glass of wine, why don't I just take a taste to wash it down with?
No, great question. And again, is no, they're now looking back, I can see what had happened, right? But it was, again, the mannerisms and the daily things that I was doing that were steering me away from my program, because I'm a very structured, compartmentalized, oriented person. And the gifts of sobriety became very real. And my life got very good. My life got very big, but I'd also lost sight of those the simple daily tools and tasks that I had to do. Those became more minimal and not a part of my daily routine. So over the course of time, my program stopped becoming my priority. And I started to get, whether it was success, money, doing more projects and getting into the wrong types of things. So I simply just diverted away from my program. Stop talking to people, stop going to meetings, stop talking to my mentor, stop talking to people that were in my support group. And I got disconnected. I'm a part of I go to church, and I stopped going to church, and I just really stopped doing the things that I really embedded as a solid foundation for myself. And you'd say that's kind of crazy, but I was not aware. I wasn't mindful of it. And, and something today that I learned from that, though, is I use this AAA modality. Because if you're not aware of something, you can't accept it. And if you can't accept it, you can't take action. But it's allowed me the opportunity to be able to go back and really identify these key areas and that awareness. And it's really comes back to, really taking it a day at a time for me, and being in the moment and being present and having a structure.
Hey, Anthony, I know you had that one relapse that was pretty bad. And if I remember your story, it was sort of the streets called to you a little bit, right? Wasn't that sort of it? Because Squaresville was a little too boring.
Yeah, living a normal life was just not cutting it. I had to have some action.
Right.
And once I had that first one, or once I started hanging out with the action, even though my intentions wasn't to relapse, I just wanted the action. But they say you hang out in the barbershop, you're going to get a haircut. You got my wig peeled back. Man,
is that what happened to your hair? Too much time in the barbershop? Well, Anthony was giving a shit about our hair before the mics heated up. So I'm just throwing a little back. But it is interesting that relapses have these different feelings to them. I feel like Anthony's, yours was a little more self-conscious. I also don't think, all right, Jason, where are you? I don't see, there he is. There was still, I remember Bob was worried about you, and I didn't really see why. And it always takes another addict to kind of see stuff. You know what I mean? Now I get it. Now I see your full recovery now. And I couldn't quite get it then. I was like, what the hell's the matter with you? Jason's doing great. He's great. Right. So I think you already had a sort of a veneer of denial or some alcoholic thinking that he probably picked up on, and that made it easy for you to go slip further, deeper into it. Does that make sense?
I would totally agree. Because look, also for me, and I'd be curious to hear both your and Anthony's perspective on this, but I also don't think relapse is necessarily a part of recovery. I think it's a lack thereof. And looking back at kind of what I went through is I could see those things, but I also, again, that's where, money became more of a fascination. I started to idolize different things that were not of the highest priority in my life.
Right.
It became the priority.
That's the part. That's the part. Anthony, what do you say to that?
Yeah, I agree. Relapse doesn't have to be part of a recovery. I've heard that, and that's not true. And I also can understand where other things can divert you away from your recovery. Because I mean, I finally came from where I came from, and I'm having a pretty decent life, and all of a sudden things are like better than going to those boring meetings. I want to work and go to school and all of that stuff, and it just feels good, and you get noticed, and you get that. And all of a sudden, it's like, oh, there's a 5:30 meeting, and tomorrow, and then tomorrow's continue.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Well, I think it's your perspective on recovery too. That's the other thing too, is I think it's going back to the app and just talking in general, is just looking at my perspective on sobriety. And Dr. Dan, Drew, and him and I look at it, it's like, we got to change that philosophy. It's like sobriety. It's like, oh, it's sober, it's boring. It's like, to be honest, I live the most crazy life now and the most fun. It's the most, crazy. I think it's kind of the word I'm able to live. It's the most fun thing, and your brain produces more potent chemicals than heroin, right? You just got to let it work.
Yeah.
And sobriety or addiction took so much stuff away from me. Whether that was what I, surfing, skating, snowboarding, playing baseball, fishing, all those things. And there's so much to do in life and so much to experience that, I think it's also how you look at when you be able to get, when you get sober, it's your perspective. But the most beautiful thing about sobriety for me is I got to know myself. I had lost sight of who I was for so long. And I told you this many years ago, overinflated ego, underestimated sense of self-worth, always dictating my successes on the external stuff, never could feel that or amount to that in the internal. And, once I got past that and was able to look at me and to be able to look in a mirror and be able to be like, dude, I'm comfortable and I like who you are, my life really started to shift. And I actually do things that I enjoy now. I do things that I like. I do things that I want to partake in. I have a purpose, I have passion, and I have motivation.
Back to the relapse as part of recovery. When I say that to people, I have two intentions. You're right. It doesn't need to be part of recovery. But I'm trying to get the codependents off the addict. I'm trying to get them to back off. That's sort of my motivation for saying it. Like, hey, this is his recovery. See, it's not your recovery. It's his recovery. People relapse. Happens. Lay off. Number one. And number two, some people, when they relapse, get very deep into guilt and shame. And I'm trying to manage the guilt and shame by saying, hey, this is part of a process. It doesn't have to be, but it's a way of relieving people of some guilt and shame, which doesn't serve recovery most of the time. So that's my reason for saying things like relapse part of recovery, even though the fact is it does not have to be. It does not have to be. Anybody else on the we have all the Zoomers up there now from and some of you I see are new. Mary's new, and we had Jorge who Casey brought in, and Nadia I see as well. Anybody else new up there? Colin, Chris, Charles we know, but anybody have any questions for Anthony, for Jason really? Okay, Mary, go ahead. Got to unmute yourself. You're still muted, Mary. Mary, you're still muted. There you are.
Okay, I got it.
Good.
Okay, so I have this friend who I'm trying to help and who goes back and forth on wanting help. And I quit drinking basically when I was 22. So I know what it's like because I've been on psych meds since then, and I know those don't mix. So I just don't try. But he has a heart condition, and it's a very rare heart condition to the point where they have people come in to see it, and I don't know how to get through.
What is his heart condition? So I only ask.
It's so rare that 1% of people have it.
What is it?
It's he doesn't tell me. It's basically he already has a defibrillator and a pacemaker. And it's it was from when he was a child. He's had tons and tons of surgeries.
Okay.
12 surgeries.
All right. So he has some sort of great vessel transposition or something. So, okay.
Right.
Got
it's
it. Okay.
He looked up some stuff about it. His lifespan is till he's 50.
No, I understand. And the reason I ask it is because addicts, alcoholics will use spurious things as justification for ongoing using. So
Exactly.
This is for real. And so your question is, how can you be of help?
Yeah, without hurting myself, because I've been trying to be there for him for a few years and it's not going anywhere. And so he pushes me away, then apologizes. Oh, I was just drunk and stuff like that.
So we get it. Jason, go ahead, and then Anthony.
I mean, my whole perspective perspective on that is letting them know, like if working with my family members on many occasions, like letting them know, hey, look, I love you, I care about you, I'm here for you, and I'm willing to support you when you're willing to help yourself. But when I set that boundary, I have to make sure I stick to that boundary too, because every time I would say something to them and say, hey, like, look, I'm not going to be around if you continue to do this, but I'd go back and be there. What I'm doing is I'm actually co-signing what they're doing, and I'm letting them know that, hey, what you're doing is okay. So I had to get very specific around that and let them know, like, look, I love you, I care about you, but until you're willing to help yourself, I can't help you. And I know it's way easier said than done, but when you move the goalpost, that's an addict's perfect example of saying, hey, look, they're not going to give up on me, in the sense of they're going to keep a lot of me to be able to use.
Right. Like I just want him to get better, and I want to have him around for a few more years. Like, that's all I want,
Anthony,
and it's different.
Go ahead,
and
Jason.
It's difficult just with with the heart condition. I mean, again, I'm not a doctor by any means, but just working with so many different people that have struggled. To this day, that's the most beneficial and effective thing is like, look, I love you, I care about you, I support you, but I'm not going to be around to watch you do this to yourself anymore.
Right. That I think that is how you do it. Exactly the way Jason said that is if you do get fed up, you don't get angry and storm out. You do it exactly the way Jason just said it. Precisely.
Yes, I did that.
Yeah.
Like I was like, I love you so much. I only care about you, but I can't sit here and watch you essentially kill yourself. Like it's been since I've known him that he's been drinking this much. And so it's just so scary. Like, I'm just like, please just, he talks about getting help on and off, but he doesn't want to quit drinking altogether. It's kind of like a Bert situation. So only worse.
Yeah.
So
but do you still stay in communication with him and stuff? Does he know that he can call you and he can reach out to you?
Yeah. I just was like, I can't see you all the time. I can't see you ever when you're drinking.
If you really want to do something, and this is not your obligation, but I always tell people, go to some Al-Anon meetings. You'll right. if you really want to do something that will help, you'll be surprised how transformative that can be and how much more effective. I
used to go to AA meetings. My sister's been in AA for 25 years. She's got her 30-year ship. Just got her 30-year ship. Wow.
But Al-Anon,
I used to go to AA meetings.
Al-Anon though, it's different.
Yeah,
it's a little
different. Yeah, I know. But
good.
They
good
all told me about that when I was there.
Interesting. They saw it. They saw it in you. There it is. Anthony, anything to add to that?
I would agree with the Al-Anon. And one thing, if your friend, from what you were saying, does have those moments of clarity in which I want some help, but I'm gonna drink. Sometimes, if you can, leave some literature laying around, because we always have that moment of clarity. And then we'll pick up something and read it. Maybe have somebody from the program, because we all think the same in this addiction world. We do. And maybe there could be somebody's phone number he can call that can relate to him, and things like that. But I totally agree. The Al-Anon ticket is definitely good for you. I mean, I can only suggest it, but it does help.
Yeah. My brother was addicted to heroin for a long time, and I know his thing was getting away from his source.
Yeah.
But I know that's not an alcohol thing. You can't do that.
Well, and believe me, it doesn't work with heroin either. It's just you can't.
Okay, well, he had to go to AA,
right,
NA meetings and stuff like that too. But getting away from Detroit helped.
You know what's? Let me tell you a fascinating piece of history and story here, because I was smiled when Anthony said lead the literature around, and you might your words, Anthony, where you pick it up and read. Wasn't that your word? Was that what you said? Where's Anthony?
You'll pick it up eventually and
pick it up and read. St. Augustine. You guys know who St. Augustine is? St. Augustus of Hippo, very famous religious philosopher. He wrote the first autobiography called The Confessions, the Confessions, and of Augustus of Hippo. And in my opinion, that was the first big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. His mom was an alcoholic and warned him about it, and he became kind of a sex addict alcoholic. And he had a moment where a Bible was lying around, and it fell open to a certain page, and he heard a voice say, pick it up and read. And that was his moment of clarity and where he turned. And obviously it's not quite the same as the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, but his Confessions is the first big book. It's really interesting. It's a story about addiction, alcoholism, and about recovery. Now, and all the stuff he applied in the religious context has echoes of the things we use today in recovery. Isn't that interesting?
Fascinating.
Yeah, fascinating. So, okay. Anybody else have anything else for Jason? And then we'll get into general topics with you guys, with the Zoomers in a second. I'll let Jason go. Case, you got something?
Well, I was just about to say, it looked like Nadia had her hand up.
Oh, Nadia, hands up?
Yeah, I got something after her.
Maybe that's the little one in front of him. Put his hand up. Susan is obsessing about your baby, Nadia.
Oh, yeah, it's his nap time, so I thought
So cute. Oh,
So cute.
Thank you. Yeah, he just turned 4 months.
Congratulations.
So I'm going to preface this with a personal story. My uncle, we were close, and he kind of alienated himself from the rest of our family. And he even went so far as to, we think that he faked a suicide so that he could get unemployment benefits and continue his addiction. He's an alcoholic. So my first question is, when you've gone that far and your family's completely out of your life, and second, do you think there's any chance or hope for him whatsoever? And do you think, in your opinion, is it easier for a family to get through to people or friends?
Good question.
Yeah.
Jason?
Really good question. Look, and I think that there's, just with that little bit of backstory, and again, is every single person is different on how we approach this in my eyes, because it is so multifaceted in the circumstances and the underlying issues. There's the broader topics that we can look at in the broader scope of this. But when somebody's gone that deep, right? I mean, in that stages of it, he's in the very progressive parts of this and he's in survival mode, right? Looking at this as a survival gene to basically continue his addiction. My suggestion, if I were you, if there's any opportunity to be able to get professionals involved, kind of looking at that last attempt. And we did this with my aunt, who struggled, been to 25 different treatment centers and stuff, but really asked ourselves the question, hey, if she died tomorrow, are we okay? No, from addiction, did we try every single thing that we possibly could do? And I had to sit down with my dad and have that conversation. And when it came down to that, we basically came up with one more opportunity for this, because this is the reality of the disease. You have to understand, this is the leading cause of death in America for 50-year-old individuals and younger. So, and it's cunning, baffling, and powerful. But
Deadly.
You have the resources, is putting something together, like a family intervention, getting a professional to basically conduct and host this, and coming up with some form of game plan, whether that's friends or whoever that person respects the most. Whoever you think could be, I look at it, you never want to bring in family or friends that are going to be a target for the individual to be able to bring backlash to, but that are going to be most supportive and that they can resonate with. And sometimes it is friends. Sometimes, sometimes family is not the best people to bring in, but it would be based on you and the professional to be able to put that stuff together, but is to, conduct an intervention of some way, shape, or form to try to have some last saving grace with it. But when they're that deep, you unfortunately have to ask yourself that question. I had to do it with my own family member. Have I done every single thing I possibly could? And will I be okay if they pass away? And that's kind of how I framed it. And I'll go to that one last length. I don't know if that's helpful, but I would consult with the professional and try to conduct an intervention.
I completely agree with that. Anthony, anything you want to add to that?
I think that there's always hope, no matter how far down somebody is. From my experience, you can hit a bottom that's extremely low, and it seems like for the individual, the world is over, and everybody think their world is done. But always believe that there is hope. First of all, interventions. I've been part of some, and they work. Sometimes family members, and you have to be careful because there is that codependent that the individual will target. And that codependent will rescue the individual right in the middle of an intervention. And so, just structure it. If you're going to do an intervention, get a professional, like Jason says, sit around, rehearse what you're going to say, and get your emotions out the way right there, because you're going to have to stand solid. really solid, because you're dealing with a person that has a disease that's really tough.
Yeah, there can't be any crack in the dam, in the dike. Everyone has to be a unified front. That's why, you know, treatment teams for addiction are always teams. It has to be something that surrounds the patient, where everybody knows what everybody else is thinking, and there's no crack, there's no break. But Nadia, there's sort of two things to think about. One is the professional intervention, and sometimes you have no alternative because the brain is so far gone from the alcohol that you can't reach the person any other way than with a show of force, right? There is another alternative if he's not that far gone, which is what you're trying to do is to get him to see himself as he is, right? And sometimes spending time with a person, reflecting back to them, building a frame of trust, gets them to see themselves through your eyes. That would be your goal, not to go in and magically fix them, but to start spending some time with him and going, I'm concerned, I'm seeing this, you must be uncomfortable, just, you know, reflecting back their emotions to them. And that takes a little bit of time and commitment, and it's really hard to do on your own. And you would probably have to either be a recovering person yourself or do some codependency recovery if you're not, because otherwise the disease is so cunning it'll pull you on in. And so it's weird. I always tell everybody that the disease of addiction is like the plant in the Little Shop of Horrors. You all seen the Little Shop of Horrors? It's like the Audrey 2. If you go near it, you get eaten unless you have somebody there pulling you out. And that's a lot of mental illnesses are that way, but addiction is definitely that way. So Jason.
Yeah, it's hard to because there were some physical altercations between family members, and that probably made him go a little bit deeper into it. It's a very complicated. At one point, they're from Malta, so at one point he fled back to Malta and then came back to the States, isolating himself more. It was very. I don't know if he'd be willing to look through anybody's eyes in the family right now, which is kind of why I mentioned the friend thing. But I don't even know where he lives anymore. And we used to be close. So it's
a terrible illness. You can always.
Well, and if they're just throwing it out, I mean, whether it's connect with Drew, myself, whoever, I mean, there's a lot of resources that I can throw your way. You know, if you want to connect with somebody that is much more educated than myself in that area, that can be helpful.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
One of the things I actually wanted to make a comment about real quick. Fascinating stories, by the way.
Yeah.
I have definitely struggled with my alcohol addiction. And I actually find motivation to not drink by working with individuals like my friend Jorge. He's dependent on me, you know, and I don't know. It's just,
well, so let me
3 days into it.
Let me frame it. So service is what you're talking about. Jason,
service.
Jason, you want to talk about service?
And
then Jason, service, Anthony, service. Jason first.
Service for me. I mean, look, that's one of the key pillars in my recovery. I mean, one of the things I wake up and do every single day is remind myself, do something nice for somebody and don't get caught. And having that mentality and that.
So wait, I don't think people know what you mean, because you didn't used to think about it that way. So get a little deeper on that.
Yeah. So, I mean, literally it could be anything. If I'm in the Starbucks drive-through and I'm a car in front and I'm going to pay for the people's stuff behind me, you know, just basically it could be any act of kindness, right? But it's not looking for anything in return.
Selfless act of kindness. Yeah.
Selfless act of kind. Yes, exactly.
Because yourself used to be involved. You always been good at this, but you had a self-involvement with it before your relapse. Yeah.
Yeah. I was always looking for how can I be noticed for it, or how can I capitalize off of it, and really doing something and not looking for anything in return. And that could be the smallest thing to the biggest thing. But service is, especially when I'm when I have a ton of anxiety, or I am in a manic mode, and after I've done my AAA modality of getting me to a place, I always turn to service, because I'm able to get out of myself and to really dive into somebody else. And it allows me that opportunity to help. And there's nothing more gratifying than giving back and not looking for anything in return. That's why I do the work that I do today, and so much philanthropy in this space, is because it's the most rewarding system that's out there.
It's a better high.
It's a much better high, and it's sustainable and it's long. And I mean, like when you see people, and Drew and I talk about this all the time, when you see people come in that have had, you know, especially in recovery and or addiction, and their lives are completely dismantled, and you see them come through, they go through the, you know, detox, residential, actively arrested disease, get stabilized, and when they transition back into their life and they have success with that, and to see them be back with their family, having a job, having a career, having motivation, having passion, like it is so incredible. I can't tell you the amount of texts that I get on Christmas and New Year's and from families just saying, God, we've had another phenomenal year. Just thank you for being a part of the process. And like that is better than any amount of money, drugs. You know, it's incredible. And it's long lasting.
It also gives you that hope that Anthony was talking about. Cause you know, sometimes those people that are contacting you 2 and 3 years later were hopeless at one point. You didn't know they were going to recover. It just gives you hope for the rest. Do you want to speak to service, Anthony?
Service is a big deal. I as you guys was talking, I was getting slightly misty-eyed because I work in psych, and you know I get to be at service all the time, and nothing pleases me more than to go to a supermarket or something and see one of the clients working, and they'll look at me and go, "Don't I know you?" And it's like get a big old smile and go, "No, not really." And I'm like, okay, but they're happy, you know. And same thing across the substance abuse world. I get to see people come in, you know, just mangled. I mean, life is falling apart. Family don't want to be around them. And, you know, 6 months, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, you see the change. And it feels good and it motivates me to want to do it again. But that is a very, very important part of my program. I have to be of service, and I love it. I enjoy it. It's something I look forward to.
And it can be even as simple as something like this, though, right? People always think that it has to be out of context. I mean, it's the littlest things like this.
Yeah.
I naturally get high from this.
Yeah,
being able to connect and have that interaction with other individuals and have, you know, human connection is so important.
I want to talk a little bit about addictive thinking, if you don't mind, because both of you have had really interesting experiences with addictive thinking. And I hope this doesn't sound glib or insensitive, but I find addictive thinking just hilarious. It's just hilarious. It's so funny, and with the fact that we can laugh about it now, I think is really healthy. But both of you had. I'll have Anthony, Jason, because you haven't heard Anthony's story. I'm going to have Jason tell his a little bit first, to give you a space to tell you about your addictive thinking. But Anthony, talk to them about when you were getting arrested all those times and what your thinking was.
My thinking is insanity when I'm out there in the middle of my disease. I attempted to be a distributor of chemical products.
And you did. You achieved it. You were quite good at it.
The results wasn't I end up like Scarface. I end up more like a prisoner. But I'd get out and I'd go back to the same corner over and over and over again. And each time I think, well, something's going to be different. You know, well, maybe I can hide it better, or maybe I can throw it away when the police come, or, you know, but then it finally dawned on me after being arrested 4 times at the same corner. The problem was the corner. And so I just went 1 block south and still got.
Wait, then and you had still one more adjustment too, right? You went 1 block south, and then you took the dope out of your pocket and put it in your socks. That was the problem.
Yes. Yeah. Well, the first one was it was supposed to go in my little coin pocket of my jeans because, you know, I'm a big high roller, and so I got to stuff it in there, and then the sock,
okay.
You know, and then the pocket. Then I was supposed to hold it in my hand and throw it, but I get high and I forget that it's in my hand. And so,
am I the only person that finds this funny? It's sad, but it's fun. It's hilarious. If he were in it, it would not be funny. Yeah, it wouldn't be funny when he's in it, but in retrospect, it is extraordinary, the thinking. Jason, you're thinking when you're in your disease.
Well, it's the insanity. I mean, it's the insanity behind it. And Anthony, I relate to you completely, man. There was a period in my life where, I mean, you have to remember, I went to 13 treatment centers from Florida to Hawaii, every state in between the ages of 18 and 23 years old. You know, but there was a point where I got arrested 4 times in 6 months in 4 different states, and then in one different country. And it was just, you know, I was always able to just justify and rectify how there was no issue. And I was blaming it. My biggest thing though, at a young age is I was always blaming it, which was also a very conflicting issue, is because I'm like, oh, I'm young, I'll be able to grow through it. I'm young, I'll be able to grow through it. But you know, and that's that's just the insanity that's behind it. I mean, there are so many different times and so many different things I could justify, but it's all denial and it's projection on everybody else. There's no accountability, no ownership.
And you can put labels on the process of the thinking, but it's just hilarity. It's just, and there's no end to it. It's one of the most creative endeavors of the human experience. Addiction thinking to sustain your disease. It's just,
I love how Drew finds it comical.
I always feel bad, but it's so entertaining to me, and I love laughing about it with the patients in recovery because it is funny when you look back. I mean, you're in it. It's not funny. It's not funny because it is deeply distorted and it's all over the place. And an addict would get very, very angry with you if you
funny, not funny.
Yeah, funny.
Oh, when I was in it, I would steal your wallet and help you look for it. I mean, that's the shit that I would do.
Hey, Anthony, you found your brother, man.
Yeah, it's a good thing we didn't meet each other. We both would be broke and fighting.
Yeah, well, we both have each other's wallets. I guarantee you that.
Anthony, I think Anthony actually did that. Didn't you actually do that?
Yeah, I had a roommate that was gracious enough to allow me to live with him, and he went to the bathroom, and actually I took his stuff, and then it was only him and I. When he came out the bathroom, he asked where it was, and I told him I'd help him find it.
I did the same thing with my brother's ID, dude. He was so livid because he was 22 at the same time, and I needed it to go get my booze, but he had to go through the whole DMV process, everything, and then he ended up finding it in my wallet later. So it was not pretty.
This disease.
Not to circle back, but there was one of the things I wanted to point out too with working with Jorge as much as I do. It actually gives me a perspective as well. You know, here I am. Oh, I wish I could have a beer, pushing this kid around in a chair. You know, who has a much better attitude than pretty much any person I know. I don't know. It's just.
Let's introduce
the conversation.
And I understand, and we're going to end the addiction conversation in a minute. We're talking more general stuff, but Jorge.
We're getting to the funny stuff.
Jorge had muscular dystrophy, right?
I like your backdrop, Casey. Looks good.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, it's all my swag from the nightclub service. But yeah, you have a muscular D, right, Jorge?
Yeah, I have muscular dystrophy of Duchenne. Can you hear me?
I do hear you. Duchenne's muscular dystrophy, but Duchenne's there's many different flavors of Duchenne. You look pretty good, my friend. Your breathing's good, that kind of thing?
Yeah, my breathing is good. It's just my more in the bowel movement that is lower for me.
So it's your lower torso that's out, sort of thing.
Yeah, and I try to stay active in different things. Might not be physical, but I try to read, or I try to do meditation because I advocate for students with disabilities. And I do meditation just to see how calm they can get. And some of them have more severe mental problems than others.
Right.
But it's just beautiful.
You know, Doc, one of the things we're trying to do as well is I'm working on getting him. We have a pool here in our community, and I want to try to get him moving around as much as possible out of that chair. It's just one of those.
Make sure you have the full approval of his team, because with Duchenne, sometimes too much, even going a little extra on movement can make symptoms worse. I'm with you that movement's good, but you got to make sure that it's within the treatment plan they have for him. Just be sure, because the muscle can exhaust very, very easily with Duchenne's, and you can get into all kinds of other stuff. What I like about what Jorge's presenting with is his posture is really good and his breathing is really good, and that's a great sign. And of course that's what you want more than even the movement of lower extremities. You want the breathing to be enhanced by movement and activity and that kind of thing. Let me let Jason go. Jason, I'm going to say farewell to you. We're going to talk about more general topics. My friend, I hope we can see you very soon, and your lovely wife. Are you still there, Jason? There you are.
I'm here.
Okay. We're going to sort of end the addiction part of the conversation and talk about other stuff. But
thank you guys. Thank you very much, Drew. Obviously, great seeing you, Anthony. Your guys' guests are amazing. Great questions, and love being here.
And where do people, if they want to check out the app, where do they go?
If you go to the App Store, go to Reframe. REFRAME.
All right. Take a look at that. If people are having trouble, we should come up with, if we're going to work with them, we should come up with guidelines like who uses what. This should be we should help educate people. If you're going to use it, like Nadia's uncle should not be using an app. Nadia's uncle should be in treatment, and same with Mary's friend, treatment. But there are a lot of people that are not out of control that way. They can probably benefit from these things. So I'll take a look at it. Okay,
100%.
Excellent,
Thank
my
you
friend.
very much.
Talk to you soon.
Thanks, Susan.
Bye,
guys.
Bye.
Love you.
So back to Casey and Jorge. And so Casey, how'd you get involved with Jorge?
He's my neighbor.
Oh, wow. Fantastic.
One of my neighbors. Yeah. So, well, we started doing the Vets for Kids things over the summer. So, yeah, I got about 15 kids that I work with.
Great.
So Jorge, I definitely work the most with him though.
Fantastic. Let's bring back the panel. Anybody else have any other questions? You guys have been sitting very quietly. We've had this interesting conversation about addiction and addictive thinking. I can't see a lot, unfortunately. And Tom, you're getting up. People are asking if you're there. You're there. Anybody? And Alana, if you raise your hand, you have to raise it high if you want. Okay, go ahead, Alana.
He's always here. Sorry, you're cut off.
Okay,
I just brought you back into the screen.
Alana, go ahead. Unmute. There you are.
All right. So my question is for a coworker. She's a single mom of a 9-year-old daughter, and the 9-year-old's daughter, dad, just passed away due to alcoholism. So they've been divorced for 8 years. Mom knew that dad was an addict. The daughter, didn't know she would just know that dad wasn't feeling well. So my question for you is, what services are there out there for a 9-year-old girl whose daughter passed away due to alcoholism?
Not much. It really becomes individual therapy. I don't know. The school might have something.
Right. And I've already got her hooked up with local services. There's an organization called CARA that here in Palo Alto that deals with.
Let me just, there's two things. There's really two things when I think about this. When with, sort of pre-13 or maybe even pre-15, all the kids are interested in is, if my dad is sick, is he going to get better, or dealing with that he died, not what he died of. That is not of any concern to them. They don't quite really process it. They can, but they don't typically do that. Later, she needs to learn a lot about this illness. She could have it. There's a 50% probability she has it. Exactly. And so later, once they start having more frontal lobe function, like 13 and above, then maybe Alateen, if that's a free service, obviously, or even a Zoom meeting. Just now it's really about grief and being able to express her emotions, and that's just sort of individual therapy. So
perfect. I figured you were the perfect person to ask for this.
There, you bet. You bet. And Kristen, how's your daughter doing? What's going on? What's the latest?
Thank you for asking. We are kind of in the state right now where mornings are good, afternoons are really bad. I finally got my meeting for the results of the psych evaluation that we had in June. That's how backed up clinicians are. That's how backed up psychological and psychiatric services are.
I know.
So I'm excited about that. I've just been reading more books on how to deal with oppositional defiant disorder. My husband's been doing that too, just trying to make some changes in regards to how we deal with conflict and, issues that are sensitive to her, and just try to keep communication as open as we can with the educators. It's been hard.
I'm sure, but I got to tell you that behavioral interventions work, and kids change a lot across their childhood and adolescence. It's not, this is not, that don't despair. You know what I'm saying? This is.
It's just very difficult when you're picking up this angelic creature every day, and every day you have to hear about everything that went wrong. And every day, when you try to talk to your kid about it, they start crying and getting upset. And I hate to be selfish in kind of working our way through all this. But to be quite honest, as a parent, it's exhausting. As somebody who just loves their kid and wants to help and has other kids they need to take care of, it's taxing. So I just trying to take care of everyone, just doing my best.
And does she have an individual plan at school?
An IEP.
Yeah.
She does.
And does it include, what's it kind of look like?
It includes one-on-one specialized time with a special educator, places that she can go to calm down.
Okay.
Just base benchmarks for where they would like to see her in regards to her behavior and the academics. It's a pretty significant document.
Okay. This stuff works, Kristen. It's just kind of get in a stride here. It's a marathon.
It is. I remind myself that every day.
All right, good. And Mary's got her hand up. Mary, go ahead.
Okay, so I have like a bit of a question. It's a little bit of a trigger type question. I have bipolar disorder. I have like 5 of them, you know, because there's comorbidities that come with bipolar disorder. You know what I mean? Like ADHD, generalized anxiety disorder, and then like major depressive disorder.
Okay.
So anyway, I'm bipolar 2, and so some things have happened in the last few months, and like sexual assault type things.
Mm-hmm.
And basically every day I'm kind of breaking down. Like I can't leave my house. I break down to the point where like I'm like screaming and stuff.
Okay.
And like my dad heard me today, and from outside my house. Like luckily I have my parents nearby.
Okay, so have your medications been adjusted recently?
Yes, they have. Like after that.
Okay.
You know.
Okay, so is it helped?
No.
So make sure you feed back to the psychiatrist that it's not improved.
I see him in 2.5 weeks. You know.
What was the adjustment they made?
I went from 50 to 100 on the desvenlafaxine, which is like it's Mystique. I'm sure.
No, I understand. And are you on a mood stabilizer?
Lamictal, lamotrigine.
How much?
200.
All right, so that's a pretty decent dose. I mean, maybe that can be.
I was on 400. Like I needed to get less because I was too foggy.
Okay, but maybe 200 is too much less. You know what I mean?
Maybe,
because that irritability, as you say, it's a comorbidity with the anxiety, and this is like a post-traumatic stress reaction with the mood, you know, and so. So that's one thing I would, you know, maybe email your psychiatrist and say, can I go up, you know, 250 or whatever on my Lamictal?
Like 75. He doesn't know how to email, but yeah.
Well, whatever. I mean, maybe get through to them and get something to make you feel better before you have to wait 2 damn weeks. And by the way, 2 weeks, and he's going to go, well, we'll see how this works. We'll see in another 3 weeks. Like, get ahead of it. Get ahead of it.
Right.
But I'm wondering if any of the women in our Zoom here want to support Mary, because that sounds like what you need more than anything right now. Any of you have any words of encouragement? Diana, you're a nurse. You got anything? I hate to call. I know the helping professions get called, you know, to task all the time. You're still blocked. You're still muted, Diana. But I'll give you a chance to. There you are.
Drew's getting good at this.
Well, you know, it's not me. Everyone's cooperating very perfectly.
I know.
We're all good at it.
Seasoned professionals.
Yeah, go ahead, Diana.
Oh, what did you want me to just for encouragement?
Yeah.
Or as a,
well, whatever thoughts you have.
I can relate in a sense because I have a sister that suffers with it. You were diagnosed with bipolar, is that correct?
Yeah, she's got bipolar, and then maybe concomitant anxiety, trauma, PTSD, ADHD, that kind of complex stuff. So.
Yeah, and my sister has that, plus with her multiple sclerosis, and so she has these types of things too. And she'll call me on the phone, and I've actually been in some of her appointments with her psychiatrist when we've done things over the phone, just telemedicine. And while it's difficult, for me, it's always just to keep talking about it, make sure that you have consistent appointments with your doctor, be really open about how you're feeling.
My sister.
I would say, do you agree with me that if you can find a way to contact the physician and not even wait for the appointment, just say, hey, your adjustment didn't work.
Yeah, exactly. That's what happens with my sister, is that she was having a lot of different issues with medications and dosages and what was working and what wasn't. And it is trying to wait for the appointments. No, get a hold of your psychiatrist and let them know and be vocal about it. You have to really advocate for yourself.
Yeah. And really and the more specific you can be, the better it is. Like, I want to increase my Lamictal to 250, whatever. And okay, try that. Because many physicians like the patient to participate in their care. We like that. We don't like you taking, like being overly, what's the word? Either party, the physician or the patient, should not be overly in control. It should be a collaborative thing. So
right. That's why he put me on Prestige, because the venlafaxine or Effexor was too much for like my body. Yeah. And so the Prestige is very expensive if you don't have insurance, but I do. Thank God.
Right.
So
anybody else?
Helping, I think.
Anybody else encouragement for? Go ahead, Nadia.
So I don't really talk about this very often, but I was diagnosed with bipolar 2 probably maybe 7 years ago now. And before that, I didn't really know what was going on. And bipolar 2 is a tendency to be more depressed, and you get the hypomania. With my hypomania, it was, it got to the point where I felt very ashamed of what I do. And then the depression would get very, very deep. And, one of the things that really encouraged me to really face this was knowing that one day I wanted to have a child. And I couldn't be this way. And so I would beat myself up about it, and it would put me in the opposite direction. So one of the things that I trained my brain to do is sort of objectively step back from my brain and observe my emotions rather than experiencing them and letting them take me away. And I don't know if that makes sense, but for some reason, objectifying it helped me not really beat myself up about it. That was
that makes total sense. Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. And I'm also on Lamictal, and I started taking bupropion or Wellbutrin, and I take 150 mgs of that, and it helps a lot, and there's no problems with him and breastfeeding and that kind of thing. Right. So that really, and being in continual communication with my psychiatrist and finding the right psychiatrist is very important too, because I went through a few where they were just kind of they weren't kind. So finding somebody who is really like, okay, well, getting into the nitty gritty of it and helping me face it in a different perspective really helped. And there is a lot of stigma behind it, and that does not help. So going out and reaching out to people and saying, hey, I've got this affliction is very hard to do. So opening up conversation about it, I was very hesitant to do that.
You guys, it's very common, super common. I mean, there's nothing to be ashamed of. This is the weird thing. As somebody who works around this stuff, it's so weird to me when people treat brain disorders differently than COVID or pneumonia or a heart problem. It's just, these are common brain conditions. There just are. And there's no shame and guilt and all that.
Yeah, I don't feel, sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying, and one thing that may be a little unconventional, and once in a while I read Scott Adams' book a while back and then tried this based on his recommendation, was seeing a hypnotist. And that sounds crazy, but there does seem to be, at least for me, I would have outbursts of rage on occasion. It was just one of the common symptoms of like just stupid stuff, like being in traffic. I just lose it. Not that that's uncommon, but it was a little much, right? So, or just, I drop a cookie and I get pissed off. Like that was my cookie. Being able to kind of redirect those connections, like your brain is it favors a certain neural pathway.
Yes,
right.
That's right.
After it's like an addiction, right?
No, it's a circuitry. It's exactly right. It just goes. It just opens, and you can go alternative pathways sometimes. Anthony, I want to bring you in. I would you agree with me that you and I have seen a lot of bipolar disorder around, that it's the best approach is multimodality. So it doesn't surprise me that for somebody, hypnosis might be effective, and medication is useful for most. CBT is useful for many. And in a way, hypnosis is sort of a relative of CBT.
Yeah, there are a lot of different things. I like the fact that there's really no one size fit all.
Yeah.
And people should remain open.
Yeah.
Acupuncture, acupressure, a lot of things. I also believe that medication without therapy is a waste of time, and there's so many support groups. Like I'm noticing you guys are connecting on here. That helps out a lot too, because the more you can lower your anxiety, the less symptoms can be triggered. And there's all kinds of there's all kinds of recovery groups for everything out there these days, and I would reach out and just talk to some people, like-minded people, and
So that's the general category of mutual aid, and this mutual aid now has been highly studied, and mutual aid groups of all type, whether it's sexual traumas or whatever it might be, really they're free. They are free. I can't say this enough. They are free, and now they're available by Zoom. They're available all the time, and they do help. They've been shown scientifically. The studies show they help, and so I agree with Anthony on that completely.
Yeah, I live in the Metro Detroit area, and it's a little different here.
Then get on Zoom. Okay. Find a meeting on Zoom.
I mean like the people. There's a lot more poverty, I think, going on, and like there's most of us can't pay our bills and stuff like that. So it's just kind of a group of people talking about how horrible life is right now. So I need to find another one. I'll find one on Zoom, but right now the NAMI ones that we have here, it's basically just everybody being like, I can't afford my food. I can't pay my rent. And I'm like, yeah, now I feel bad about everything.
Yeah, and I would argue if that group should be finding solutions, and they should be making their focus.
Yeah, but they're not.
Yeah, I get it.
I actually ran into that problem myself. But to conclude what I was saying, I've stabilized myself pretty well, and it was not easy, but I'm living a normal life. I've got a nice job, and I'm not, I've got a kid, and there's hope, and I won't go too much into my story, but it was there's a lot of bumps, but it's not impossible, and nobody would even guess that I had anything going on with me.
Yeah, treatment works. Treatment works. I can't say that enough. If you're engaged in your treatment, it kind of works. Go ahead, Casey.
Well, it's one of the things I've noticed, actually, Dr. Drew, is it seems like, especially over the past year, that your acceptance of telehealth in general has come around.
Well, it's not that it's come around, as I was worried about it, because I really am a big advocate of two people in space spending time together. That's an important part of how we regulate our emotions and experience the self and experience the other. So I knew that Zoom could only go so far, but I was impressed how far it could go. It really impressed me. It was for sure exceeded my expectations. That's for sure, in terms of what could be accomplished. And so somebody just getting going in self-help, Zoom is a perfect option right now. It's eventually you have to meet people in person, in space. You have to do that to really continue to drive. And on average, what I've seen during the pandemic is about 6 to 8 months is when need for deeper contact starts to kind of climb up. So you guys, we've been going for like an hour and a half here. Susan, are we okay?
Yeah, you got to take Paulina to the airport.
I know. I got to take my daughter to the airport, which is, I could talk all day to you guys. And I know.
This is fun.
Aaron is new. I didn't hear anything from Aaron. Margaret is there. We some of you didn't get a chance to speak. Chris.
Margaret in Australia.
Yeah, I know. Is there anybody want to put there you are. Colin, anybody want to put any last minute
emergency questions.
Yeah, anything you want to throw in the ring before I wrap up and get to the airport?
The show reminds me of you.
Drew, it's Joe Giannotti.
Oh,
I don't see you, Joe. You're not there, but go ahead.
How come I don't
It's
see
the
you?
goat to Joe Giannotti.
There.
I want to congratulate you on you and Paulina on the book.
He
Thank
probably
you, sir.
doesn't have his camera
Thank you,
on.
buddy.
And well, I right now I can't have it on. And Susan, I just want to know, what are you making for lunch today?
I'm not making any lunch. Pauline's just brought me some tacos, so I'm gonna go wolf a couple tacos.
That's why she wants to get going.
No,
Tacos
no,
before
I can
airport.
wait. I just, you have to get her to the airport. That's
I know,
all.
I really do. So thank you, Joe. Appreciate that comment.
Thank you, though.
I have to have the book handy if anybody's interested. We've had a lot of really good feedback.
Yeah, enough of the book. Give me a
pod
week
tour.
off on the book.
Yeah, people have really liked it though, and I think it hit the target we were looking to get. Anybody else before I wrap it all up?
You guys are wonderful.
Diana, go ahead.
I just wanted to talk to you really quick. It'll be quick, but I just wanted to let you know, just up in Washington, that they've restricted now with the monoclonal antibodies for the regen COVID.
I know.
That they're now making it an ED visit. They're making them pay for the emergency. The only thing that's free is the medication. They've changed it from outpatient, and they've now just even restricted the amount of people that can get it. They have to be over.
Let me just.
BMI 30. It's just bad.
Let me just climb on and agree that is bad. This should be easier and more widespread, not more restricted.
Oh, God.
There is one piece of good news, Diana. There's one piece of good news. We will have molnupiravir soon, like maybe within the month, and that's going to change everything. That's what we're all going to take if we get a fever, whether we've had the vaccine or not. I'm saying we all should be taking an antiviral and carrying it with us. So if we get a breakthrough or we're unvaccinated and get an infection, you can profoundly mitigate the effects. It is a game changer. People think it's another eye drug. It is not. I assure you, it is not. Nor is there's like 3 different ones coming, and probably we're going to have to take a couple of them to prevent viral resistance, because we know that viral resistance develops very easily to.
All right, enough with the
we gotta
preventative
go.
measures,
All
or
right.
YouTube will cancel us again.
Okay.
Sorry, Susan.
Yeah, it's okay. You just got to get it out in small, short sound bites.
She's worried about YouTube jail.
Yeah, we're out of it. We actually can have another strike now without getting canceled. So that's the good news.
Guys, it's a privilege. We appreciate your participation.
Bitcoin.
Thank you. Thank you to Jason Wahler for spending time with us. We see Charles's Bitcoin ad there.
Yeah. Call Charles for your Bitcoin.
Charles for your Bitcoin needs. And we will be back on Monday, Susan. Is that correct?
Now, Tuesday for sure, and Wednesday, and.
I thought you said Monday at 5.
I'm thinking about it. I want to see how you do this weekend.
Oh, I'm okay. Monday at 5, I think, is probably where we'll be back.
Well, we'll see. We'll see.
I
have
Definitely
to.
Tuesday.
It's a guest.
We have Mark Rubert in here on Tuesday. You'll like this guy.
I might move him to Ask Dr. Drew, and then have the Facebook whistleblower here on Tuesday, but I'm not sure yet.
So we have another Facebook whistleblower that wants to talk about the whistleblower that spoke before Congress.
Whistleblowed.
So I'd be interested to hear what he has to say about that.
He was actually part of the anti-Trump campaign when he worked at Facebook. And
interesting. So we'll get some interesting stuff, and we're going to have a good weekend.
Then we're going to Austin.
We're going to Austin to do After Dark in Austin, and maybe I'm hearing there'll be a reunion with me and Christina P. So that should be very interesting. Certainly me and Annie will be reunited. That's going to happen for sure. In fact, I heard we're going to be broadcasting out of Annie's house, his new place in Austin, but we'll see how that goes.
Oh, I don't have the sound on for this. I'm going to have to play last week's. I'm going to play last week's After Dark pieces because I don't have the sound for next week.
I hear this week's is pretty good. People seem to be responding very well.
I can't fix the sound though.
Have a great weekend, everybody. We'll see you hopefully Monday.
Will he need a circumcision if this happens again?
Yes.
I'm just
good
concerned
for you.
His support penis. When can we start, when can he rail me again? Thanks, Dr. Mommy. You bet I'm coming up in May.
You see why I like our female voice messages? You see?
She's understand? So soft-spoken. She's like, when can I get that D in?
When she's whispering, and this is the whole Dear Dick support. Anyone who's watched me over the years knows that I'm obsessed with Hydrolyte. In my opinion, the best oral rehydration product on the market. I literally use it every day. My family uses it. When I had COVID, I'm telling you, Hydrolyte contributed to my recovery, kept me hydrated. Now, with things finally reopening back around the country, the potential exposure to the common cold is always around. And like always, Hydrolyte has got your back. Hydrolyte Plus Immunity, my new favorite, starts with their fast-absorbing electrolytes and adds a host of great ingredients. Plus, each single-serving easy-pour drink mix contains 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C, 300 milligrams of elderberry extract. Hydrolyte Plus Immunity comes in convenient, easy-to-pour sticks that rapidly dissolve in water, make a great-tasting drink, has 75% less sugar than your typical sports drink. It uses all-natural flavors, gluten-free, dairy-free, caffeine-free, non-GMO, and even vegan. Hydrolyte Plus Immunity is also now available in ready-to-drink bottles at the Walmart next to the pharmacy, or as always, you can find it by visiting hydrolyte.com/Dr. Drew. Again, that is HYDRALYTE.com/DRDREW. Be sure to use the code Dr. Drew 25 for a special discount. I'm going to draw the penis on here. If you just drew it like this.
All right. So for those that are just listening, Drew is drawing a penis that is soft in the middle.
Right? Does that make sense?
Draw some funny dicks. Where are the balls at, homie?
Oh, dude. All right. The balls are down here. Okay. And are we listen.
All right. Now this makes sense to me.
I cannot draw, guys. I cannot draw. I want to give a shout out to our good friends at Blue Mics. If you've heard my voice on this show any time over the past year, including right now, you've been listening to Blue microphones. And let me tell you, after more than 30 years in broadcasting, I don't think I have ever sounded better. But you don't need to be a pro or have a fancy studio to benefit from a quality mic. You may not realize it, but if you've been working from home or using Zoom to chat with friends, you probably spend a lot of time in front of a microphone. So why not sound your best? Whether you're doing video conferencing, podcasting, recording music, or hosting a talk show, Blue has you covered. From the USB series that plugs right into your computer to XLR professional mics like the Mouse or the Blueberry we use in the studio right now. Bottom line, there's a Blue microphone to fit your budget and need. I can't say enough about Blue mics, and once you try one, you will never go back. Trust me. To take your audio to the next level, go to drdrew.com/blue. That is drdrew.com/BLUE. This dose of Dr. Drew is produced by Susan Pinsky, and a reminder, the discussions here are not a substitute for medical care, diagnosis, or treatment. The show is intended for educational and informational purposes only. I am a licensed physician, but I am not a replacement for your physician, nor am I practicing medicine here. Always remember that our understanding of medicine and science is constantly evolving. Though my opinion is based on the information that is available to me today, some of the contents of this show could be outdated in the future. Be sure to check with trusted resources in case any of the information has been updated since this was published. If you or some...
Hey, you guys, you still there? Oh, boy.
We're just waiting for the wrap.
Okay. All right.
Just hanging out to see what you're cooking.
I'm eating tacos. They're amazing. Amazing.
Oh,
well,
I love Taco Bell.
I'm sorry. I Drew had to go, so he's now no signal.
Oh, that's cool.
But thanks for your questions and help today. And the cute baby is awake. Oh my God. What's his name?
Riley.
Hi, Riley. Did you have a nice nappy? Oh, look at that face. Oh my God. Oh my God. So cute. Look at those cheeks. Ugh. Oh, Paulina still has skin like that. Yeah. But we're still live, so if you want to just say goodbye to everybody and tell them how to get on the show next time, well, yeah, I'm looking forward to the reunion with Christina too. I hope she's there this week. I'm praying, so it's worth the trip to Austin. Yeah, somebody just said that on the restream, but yeah. So, anyways, thanks everybody. I know addiction is always one of those topics that's kind of like it's not always as uplifting as you want it to be, but it was some good information. And it came out really well. So, and thank you, Anthony, for your expertise.
Well, thank you for
And your funny
even
stories.
inviting me and wanting my opinion.
I know, I love it. It's so funny. But your stories were great. But anyways, you guys have a good night or day or whatever it is. And we'll see you on Locals.
Oh, that's right. Are you still live right now?
Yeah.
Oh, can I plug it real quick?
Okay, go ahead.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Go to drdrew.locals.com. If you can't get onto the local site, go ahead and go over to drdrew.com/Casey Gates is awesome.
And he is our biggest PR person over there. So, and it's really nice to meet you guys, all the new people. So we'll be in touch.
Out, Jorge, appreciate it.
Okay.
Today was Jorge's first appearance ever.
Go, Jorge. Hang in there. Do your thing. All right. Thanks, Alona. When are the bobbleheads coming, Alona?
So the bobbleheads there, if all goes well, they're going to be on the ship October 15th.
They're
done, and now they're just going from the manufacturer.
And they're stuck in that cargo ship out in the ocean that just broke
haven't even got in there.
Well,
yet.
good. I hope they unload that thing because our bobbleheads are in there. All right.
I will let you know. I'll text you when they're on the boat.
Okay, and we'll let everybody know. We're going to have a Dr. Drew bobblehead for everybody.
Yes.
So God bless you guys. I got to go and be good.
Thank you.
Go Locals.
Locals.com. Making